Hello, and welcome to the Christian Faith Publishing Author Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Baker, and for the next half hour, we'll be speaking with several very talented authors about their newly released books, what their inspiration was for creating their unique stories, and why it would be a great book for you to read and share with your friends and family. Have you ever drawn conclusions about someone without really knowing their story and what they're going through, or have you ever felt like those around you have drawn conclusions about you without getting to know you and your circumstances? Well, I think this next book is going to be perfect. The book is called Wounded by author Latrice Marie. Latrice, thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure, and thank you, Chris.
Now, tell everybody a little bit about your story.
Wounded is actually about a character. The main character is Destiny. She's facing adversity not only at home, but also at school. And actually what I wanted to do with this book is actually kind of highlight bullying, bringing awareness to people that no matter what you go through, God is always there. And then also, once again, I just want people to start questioning why. I think a lot of times when people see people that are actually hurting, we can look at them and we point out the obvious or the symptoms, but I just want people to actually go a little bit further and wonder, you know what, why is this person reacting? And actually take a step, maybe just say something positive to that person.
Now, what inspired you to write this? Was it, because bullying is so prevalent these days, which is just seeing what's going on in society, or was it things that had happened in your life or the lives of those you know? What kind of inspired this story of yours?
Absolutely. And I think the title says it all, Wounded. Actually, I feel like a lot of times art reflects our experiences, our knowledges, maybe some of our different challenges. So absolutely, I can say that I'm a survivor. I've survived molestation as a child, abusive relationships. There's a lot of different struggles that I faced, and I'm thankful that God was there to actually pull me through. So with this book, I actually want to shed light on a lot of people, believers as well as non-believers, but to actually let them know, you know what, there is hope. And so for me, Wounded was the first outlet that I had to be able to share that, but also it's just the very beginning.
Now, is this your first publication?
Absolutely. This is my first one, but I've been writing since I was 7. And with that being said, I'm almost finished with the sequel and also have a nonfiction that should be coming out pretty soon, too.
Oh, excellent. Excited to talk to you about those books in the future. Now, how was it working with Christian Faith Publishing to have this story of yours and to be able to finally have it in a book form that you can share with everyone?
I just want to say that Christian Faith Publishing has been amazing. Every idea that I've given them, they've always superseded it. They've also remained very humble. They're willing to accept or try and perfect the different ideas that you bring to them. But before I chose them, I did a lot of research. I do know people that have published books, but I'm telling you, I feel like they did a phenomenal job. And once again, this is only just the beginning.
Now, who do you think is going to be the target reader for this? Because, I got to imagine this is really something that everybody is going to want to read and everybody can really take a lot from. Is that kind of what you intended from the beginning with this?
Absolutely. With that, originally, I always felt like I was called to help women and children. I feel like a lot of times that it's the simple things that a lot of people are missing. They just need someone to encourage them and show them love. And sometimes if we don't have that in our environment, maybe we can pick something up and read and actually be able to experience that. But the more and more that I went in, I kind of poured out. I gave everything that I had. I know that anybody that's willing to pick up this book and get past the fact that it's a little raw, it could be a little troubling, but just to keep reading and actually be able to find that there is indeed hope. So my outreach would be to anyone that's looking for maybe a change, maybe a different perception. I just want to challenge people.
And when they do read this, what do you hope is the most important message they get?
Hope. I hope that when I write and when people pick it up and they read it, they have hope and they say that, you know what, it doesn't matter what it looks like I'm going through, God is still there. Even a lot of people, I believe, are challenged by that belief that the steps of a good man are ordered, and sometimes we do things that seem like it's just out of order, but it happened on time and on purpose. That way we can actually gain from that and we can get better.
Hope is a powerful thing and a powerful message, and I think everyone is going to gain that from reading this book and have their eyes open. The book is called Wounded by author Latrice Marie. You can get your copy today at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, a few of the online sources, as well as brick and mortar stores. And Latrice, thank you for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Now on the Christian Faith Publishing Author Roundtable, a very interesting book I'm excited to find out more about. The book is called This Same Jesus by author Reverend Rod James. Rod, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
Now tell everybody a bit about this book.
I, in this book, looked at 15 different views of the Lord Lord Jesus Christ, from him being the eternal Son of God, creator, and various things like that, to blesser and judge and his second coming and everything in between.
Now, what made you decide to write this book? What inspired it?
Hebrews 11:6. He that comes to God must believe that he is. And I wrote it. There's so many things in the world about evolution and different things going on in society that are so anti-biblical, when we can look at true science that absolutely proves a supernatural creation of the universe from the laws of thermodynamics, the law of causality, law of irreducible complexity, all those things. And true science proves a supernatural creation. And so, my idea was that whether believer and wanting to defend your faith, or unbeliever, someone that, doesn't believe in God, we can show them that that's the only true answer that there is.
If you watch, the 24-hour news channels and TV in general, there's so much misinformation about God and about Jesus. It's kind of nice to have something that people can read and be informed, and of course Christians to be able to have something to back up what their faith is. Is that kind of what you had in mind? Is to give people a tool to help them when there are a lot of questions from non-believers about God and about the science behind it all?
Yes, sir, absolutely. I like to call it faith by fact. And, the word says that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So faith has substance and faith has evidence. And if we look hard enough and we care enough, we can show our faith by presenting facts.
Now, how was it working with Christian Faith Publishing to have this book and to be able to have it finally in book form to be able to share with everyone?
It's phenomenal. Everybody over there that I've ever talked to has been very gracious. Being a first-time author, I had a lot of questions, and they were very understanding of me calling constantly. And it was a wonderful experience to deal with them and also to write the book.
Now that you have your first book under your belt, do you think you might do this again, might have a follow-up to this, or is there anything else you'd like to write about?
I've got a couple of ideas that I'm thinking about. One, I've been preaching a series in Romans for the last 13 months, and we're in chapter 10 now. So we've got a ways to go on that, but I'm thinking about the title, Behold, I Show You a Mystery. The Bible talks about the mystery of iniquity. It talks about the mystery of godliness, and different mysteries that are in the Bible that the Word can reveal to us if we delve into it deep enough.
Well, excited to talk to you about that book when it comes to fruition. Now, this book, This Same Jesus, when people read it, what do you hope is the most important message they get from it?
First of all, that there is a God, and that specifically the God of the Bible. In Job, God asked Job 64 science-related questions, and so far, to my knowledge, science has answered 11 of them, and the other 53 remain out there for God to know, because he was the only one that was here that saw the creation come into existence. So I want them to see the spectacular creation and how it was brought about, and also that the God that was great enough to create a universe was great enough to die on the cross for us.
Well, I tell you what, this is an amazing book, and I think it'll be a great resource for believers and be very informative for the non-believer. The book is called This Same Jesus by author Reverend Rod James. You can get your copy today, Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, a few of the online sources, as well as brick-and-mortar stores. And Rod, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
And now on the Christian Faith Publishing Author Roundtable, a book that I'm excited to talk about. Like the cover says, a way to ignite your passion for God's Word. The book is called Things in the Bible That You Ought to Know by Now by author Bill Goggin. Bill, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Chris. It's great to be here.
Now tell everybody a little bit about this book.
My book, Things in the Bible That You Ought to Know by Now, it's about things in the Bible that every Christian should know and understand. I base it on the verse Proverbs 25:2, which says that it's the glory of God to conceal a matter and the honor of kings to search them out. So this verse implies that God has hidden some things in the Bible, and it's totally worth our time to put forth the effort to seek them out. But when you read these things in the book and I point them out, I really believe believe the reader is going to say, oh my goodness, I've read that 100 times, but I never noticed that thing before. But yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Now, what inspired you to write this?
The reason I wrote the book, The Things in the Bible That You Ought to Know by Now, is just so that I could play a part in Jesus' command in Matthew 28:19 to make disciples of all men. I wrote this book just to leave a legacy to my kids. They're teenagers now, and they're not necessarily interested in reading the Bible, but I know that eventually they're going to come to a point in their lives where they're going to be more interested, and this book's going to be there for them so that I can communicate my thoughts and my passion for the Bible to them.
Well, it's like you said, it's always such a great feeling when you read a verse in the Bible, maybe something you've read several times, and then you have that aha moment that you finally get it. Did you have moments like that really kind of led up to this?
Absolutely. That's a great way to put it. These aha moments. Actually, this book is based on Bible study that I've been doing for the past 20 years. And it's not super complicated concepts in the Bible, but it's things that, like we were talking, that we read it dozens and dozens and dozens of times, but we miss something. But what my book does is help people see what the meaning, the symbolism, what God's real intent was behind a specific verse. And it helps people put things together in the Bible so that it makes more sense. And ultimately, they'll see that, wow, God has been in control this whole time. He has been so intentional about the things that are in the Bible. And yeah, I see how they fit together and they impact my life.
Now, how was it working with Christian Faith Publishing to publish this book and to be able to share all these things in the Bible?
Well, this is my first book, and I would have no way I could have imagined before I started the process how much work was involved. But I so appreciate everyone that helped, from my wife, my kids that made time for me, to everyone at Christian Faith Publishing that has helped me and encouraged me to keep on going and to finally get this thing into publication.
And when somebody reads things in the Bible that you ought to know by now, what do you hope is the most important message they've got from it?
That's a great question. I want this book, when somebody is finished reading it, they're going to be able to say, wow, the Bible is consistent from the first chapter in Genesis to the final sentence in Revelation. And I want them to walk away from this book with the idea that, yes, I can help lead, facilitate, teach a group of people the same concepts that are in this book, and it's going to help all of them develop a deeper passion for God and for the Bible.
Well, I tell you what, I think this book is going to be an excellent resource for people to have a better understanding of God's Word and make them want to delve into it even more. The book is called Things in the Bible That You Ought to Know by Now by author Bill Goggin. You can get your copy today at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, just a few of the online sources, as well as brick and mortar stores. And Bill, thank you for being on the show.
I appreciate it, Chris. Thank you.
And now on the Christian Faith Publishing Author Roundtable, a book I'm really interested to find out more about. It's essentially about getting through one of what I imagine is one of life's most horrific tragedies. The book is called Oh God, Why My Only Child by author Betty Blocker Owens. Betty, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Chris. Glad to be here.
Now tell everybody a little bit about this book and the story behind it.
All right, Chris. My book is about what I experienced, what I went through when my only child suffered permanent brain damage due to a medical malpractice. This was on a day in April when she went to a local clinic for an outpatient surgery. This was supposed to be a minor surgery, but what happened, she was dehydrated when they gave her the anesthesia. So when she was in the recovery room, they did not put an oxygen mask on her, and she went into cardiac arrest, and she ended up with what is called an anoxic brain injury in a persistent vegetative state. So this is what happened to her, and I was just totally devastated about this whole thing. Nothing like this had ever happened in my family. I was questioning God, why would you allow this to happen to my child, my only child? But He helped me to get through it, Chris, through reading the Bible. I was reading the Bible every day, praying without ceasing all day long, all night, and meditating and just asking Him to help me get through this ordeal. In my book, I shared what happened when she was at the hospital, while she was in a nursing home. I became an advocate for her, and I thank God every day that He helped me to get through this, and I believe that I can help others to get through it, and that's what I shared in my book.
Now, what made you decide to take this story and write a book about it? Because I got to imagine it probably had to be pretty tough at times because this is such a personal story and so much tragedy in it.
Well, Chris, it took me about 17 years to actually finish the book because it was so difficult to write and very painful. Every time I would pick it up and start to write, sometimes I would have to put it back down after a few hours and not get back to it. But God says that in His Word that those who He has comforted, that we are supposed to use that and comfort others. And so I felt compelled. He put it on my spirit that I should write this book and share how I got through it so that I can help others to get through it.
Now, how was it working with Christian Faith Publishing to be able to share your story in a book form? How was the process of getting the book published for you?
It was just a wonderful experience, especially Erica. Christian Faith Publishing, the representatives walked me through what I needed to do every step of the way, and I really enjoyed working with them. It was just a wonderful experience.
And when people read, "Oh God, Why My Only Child," what do you hope is the most important message they get from it?
That they can get through this with God's grace and with His help, and that they would have to totally trust Him and have faith, and that they'll get through it.
Well, I tell you what, that is a great message. And, for so many people that have gone through horrific instances, whether it be with their child or any loved one, I think they're going to get some hope from this book that they can get through. The book is called "Oh God, Why My Only Child" by author Betty Blocker Owens. You can get your copy today at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, a few of the online platforms, as well as brick and mortar stores. And Betty, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Chris.
This next book on the Christian Faith Publishing Author Roundtable, I think, is going to be a great resource to help define your purpose. The book is called "Who We Are, What We Are, Why We Are. Identify Your Why" by author Ken Robinson. Ken, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Now, tell everybody a bit about your book.
Well, the book was inspired because I want people to reach their ultimate potential. I want them to get out of their comfort zones and be all they can be. When we were little kids, we used to have dreams and we used to have goals. And as we grew up, the dreams were called goals. And I want people to understand they can live those dreams. Society does not have to dictate what they want to be or what they're going to be. They can actually, through tactics of that within my book, they can actually learn how to develop techniques to achieve those dreams. Ultimately, that's what I want. I want people to break through and break out and be the best they can be every single day.
Now, what inspired you to write this book?
What inspired me was, I think, the need or the desire, the strong desire I have for people to be the best they can be. So before I used to be a police officer, and I used to help one person at a time. I was a hostage negotiator. Same thing, one person at a time. Well, over time, I'm no longer a police officer, but I still have that desire to help. And what better way to help people than to write a book? And instead of helping one person at a time, you can help millions of people at a time. It was just, what are you going to write the book on? And through a series of prayer, self-evaluation on myself, and basically strong decision-making, I decided to do this book, name it the way it is, and articulate all my thoughts onto the book of how I see people could, not should, but could live.
Now, how was it working with Christian Faith Publishing to have this idea for this book and to be able to finally have it in book form, to be able to share and help other people?
I've only worked with Christian Faith Publishing, and I have nothing but praise for them. They are, in my opinion, by far the best. They overextended what I thought they were going to do. Every step of the way, it was more than what I thought it was going to be. From the editing, it was absolutely perfect. Actually getting the book published, that was, for me, that was a chore. I didn't know what to expect. This was my first book, but they made sure that I was informed every step of the way. They were very kind. Anytime I wanted to talk to them about anything, they were there. I love Christian Faith Publishing. I will always use them.
And when people do read this, what do you hope is the most important message they get?
That you're never too old, too young, too white, too black. You can do anything with God on your side. Always dream and dream big. You never have to settle, and you never have to allow. And I don't mean this in a negative way. but it allows society to dictate what you're going to be. And when I say I don't mean that in a negative way, that's just normal for us to live to the means of society. We're programmed by our parents, of course, and that's what my book talks about, how we're programmed, and that's who we are. But what I want people to understand is that we don't have to project ourselves as what society wants us to be. We can actually be anything we want to be at any time we want, at any age we want. All we have to do is have the desired dedication, determination, and discipline to stay focused and committed to the image of our future self as it manifests into reality. That's one of the things that I really, really preach into the book. You have to have a visualization and willing to dream and willing to believe in that dream, believe in our Creator. Whoever you think our Creator is, we were created by something, but I say the Lord. That's who I believe in. So we have to believe in all those things, put them in perspective, and go for it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think this is a great book, a book that's going to inspire people to be who the Lord intended them to be. The book is called Who We Are, What We Are, Why We Are, Identify Your Why by author Ken Robinson. You can get your copy today at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, just a few of the online sources, as well as brick and mortar stores. And Ken, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it.
Now on the Christian Faith Publishing Author Roundtable, a fun story about a character getting caught up in the events surrounding the greatest story ever told. The book is called Benjamin, the Man Who Missed the First Christmas by author Bill Trawick. Bill, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, Chris.
Now tell everybody a bit about this story.
I think God just gave me this story back in 1975. I had been telling stories to my kids, and one day I went to my study, and the story just came to me, and as fast as I could write it down, I wrote it down in pencil and then went back and typed it up, and I've edited it several times, tried publishing way a long time ago, and just sat on it until my retirement last year. I decided it was time to bring the character to life and tell the story about the birth of Jesus from a third-person view from someone who is totally clueless about what's going on around him, literally right beneath him.
Now, what inspired you to write this story?
Well, it just came to me. I was not intentionally trying to write a story about something. God just gave it to me. I have done the perspiration and tried to do the adaptation of the story over the years to make it what it is. And finally, I decided it was time to bring the character in the book to life last year and submitted it to Christian Faith Publishing, and the rest is history.
Now, how was it working with Christian Faith Publishing to have this story that you've been telling for so many years and that you've had written for so many years, and to finally have the book in your hand and be able to share it with people? How was that process?
Well, it was a totally new experience for me. This is the first book I've ever published, and it's a small book, a children's book, but they were very helpful, guided me through the entire process. We had some challenges along the way, but they worked with me, cooperated with me, and did an excellent job getting the book in the form that it is today.
Now that you have your first book under your belt, your first published book, do you have any other characters or any other books you'd like to work on in the future?
Well, I have a little story about a witch I'm trying to see if I can make into a story, but I tried to set up the character, Benjamin, his age, his situation, circumstances, so that I could have him interact in the life of Jesus in further stories, and at the same time, until the very end, remain sort of clueless or oblivious to exactly what's going on around him.
That sounds like an interesting idea, and I look forward to hearing more stories about Benjamin. Now, when people are looking for a book, this is intended for kids, do you think it's going to be something that even the parents that are looking for a book for their kids, to read it to their kids, that they're going to even enjoy this story and this message as well, kind of a great book for kids of all ages?
I think so, Chris. I believe that the story itself is interesting, humorous, but I believe the way it ends will create some maybe wonder, or maybe there may be some people that are totally missing Christmas. It may cause them to think about it. Am I missing the real meaning of Christmas? And if people really understand the story, it may be, am I so used to Christmas that this is not fresh and new all over? And am I like Benjamin? Am I just kind of missing the real meaning of it and maybe getting carried away by all the stuff, the materialistic aspect of Christmas? So I think it could prompt people and maybe stir them up a little bit, and maybe make people sort of want to make sure that they're celebrating Christmas in the right spirit, in the right way, for the right reason.
Is that kind of the main focus, like the most important message you want people to get when they read this book?
Yes, it is.
I think this is an excellent book and an excellent message, because I think, looking at Christ's life and, of course, the birth of Christ from a different perspective, I think is, like you said, it gives people an opportunity to see what they might be missing. And I think everyone's going to be blessed to pick up this book. The book is called Benjamin, the Man Who Missed the First Christmas by author Bill Trawick. You can get your copy today at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and iTunes, just a few of the online sources, as well as brick and mortar stores. And Bill, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Chris.
Thank you so much for joining us for the Christian Faith Publishing Author Roundtable. We'll be back next week with another great group of talented authors to discuss their books, their process, and how they were able to get their manuscripts published and out there for the world to enjoy. If you're a writer that is looking for a book publisher, give Christian Faith Publishing a call today at 1-800-955-3794 to receive a free publishing kit, or feel free to visit them on the web at ChristianFaithPublishing.com. Have a great weekend, everyone.